What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fight Out podcast. Apologies for the hiatus last week on the Zika and Sean Strickland card. We're back. We'll be predicting this weekend upcoming UFC Fight Night 252, Cejudo versus Song Yadong. So let's jump into it. First thing that I'll do is give my predictions in full, just as a list. So if that's what you're looking for, if you want to lose some money, feel free. And then obviously, I'll go into the card a little bit deeper. Now, it's one of them. I've seen a few people kind of slagging it off on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fight night card. But when you actually look at the fight, there's some quite interesting matchups. Now, we'll start at the top. Henry Cejudo against Yadong Sung. So, I mean, it's a make or break, isn't it, for Triple C, to be honest? I've got Triple C winning. Like I said, I'm going to fly down my predictions, and we'll go into it a little bit deeper. But definitely an interesting one. I've got Cejudo. I can be swayed, but I've got Cejudo going into this one. In the co-main, Brendan Allen versus Anthony Hernandez. I've got Brendan Allen. Rob Font against Matsumoto. I've got Matsumoto winning that one. Gene Silver against Bagdasarian. I'm going Gene Silver. And then Alonzo Menefield against Julius Walker. I'm going Menefield. Walker making his UFC debut and stuff is always tricky. So I believe that's the main card. On the prelims, we've got some interesting fights also. We've got Andre Philly, we've got Kutabala, we have got Bacharat against Ricky Simon, we've got Bukaskas fighting. There's a few interesting ones on there as well. But as a main card, I actually quite like it. So let's jump in. So with Cejudo against Song, I actually seen it get announced on the video that Henry and Usman put out on the Pound for Pound podcast, where basically Usman was giving him a prop saying, that's a tough fight, like it's going to be a banger, stuff like that. And Cejudo was kind of saying the same thing. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if Cejudo's going to come out and stand and bang with Song, but I would argue this is Henry Cejudo's most important fight of his career, because if he loses this and he's on a 3-fight skid, he's done. And I'm not saying that like, he's some sort of bum, but where does he stand in the title picture right now? And let's be honest, he's got the money, he's already had the belt, he's done everything. He's not going to be standing around fighting contenders for too much longer. And I think this is one that, obviously, Cejudo thinks he can win, otherwise he wouldn't have took the fight. But he will, I believe, be thinking, if I lose this fight, I am done fighting in the UFC. So with that being said, he must think it's quite a handy one, or one he can, show his style in, which might be a stand and bang. You never know. I can't see it happening. With Song, I seen it an interview recently where he said basically it wasn't his choice to wait. I think it was on the Adil Hawani show. So he hasn't fought for nearly a year since his loss. Now, if you watch this podcast, I'll always say about strength of schedule. Now, Cejudo obviously had a big layoff, and then he fought Aljo, and then obviously he fought Merab as well. And then he's had a little bit of a layoff himself. So it's not like the two of them are coming in, after fighting frequently non-stop. But Cejudo's had the more recent fight. I think Cejudo as an all-round MMA fighter is better than Song. But obviously it's where Cejudo's at in this stage in his career. They're the reasons why I'm saying I can be swayed, but I think Cejudo will probably get the job done. And I think it puts him almost in a weird spot. Like, what happens next there? There's an argument, maybe he could fight Sugar Sean O'Malley. I know they're trying to get O'Malley versus Merab made, but maybe Cejudo versus O'Malley is like a kind of in-between fight. Merab beat both of them anyway, so whoever it is getting a rematch. Might be a more interesting way to do it. If I was Sugar Sean, I'd like another fight before I fight Merab personally, but obviously he's the fighter, I'm not. But yeah, I'm going Cejudo in that. Co-main event, I think it's a very interesting fight. I'm a big Brendan Allen fan. I'm very, I'm a little bit biased there, shall we say. It's he's one that I like to watch. He's one that I like to win. Now, he's lost to Imavov in his last fight, and that's probably aged as well as any other loss, including Darren Till's loss to DDP, because Imavov just went and beat Izzy. Izzy was, having the best camp of his life. Even Izzy against DDP looked good. So you can't say Izzy's like completely fell off. He's fighting well but losing, which is a weird one. It's kind of worrying, but at least he's fighting well kind of thing. But my point being, Imavov has beat, a top quality Izzy. It's not like a watch Izzy or anything like that. And obviously, Brendan Allen lost to Imavov with a unanimous decision. He lost it comfy, don't get me wrong, but obviously there's a level to Imavov that people were touting him and, shouting for him and stuff. But, I think he's having a bit of a come-out party at the minute, especially. And that loss for Brendan Allen has aged very well. Brendan Allen's got some nice wins. He beat his Curtis, he sub Paul Craig, I think, as well in the past. I might be wrong. No, yeah, he sub Paul Craig, I remember that. He's had quite a strength of schedule. He does fight quite frequent. He fought 3 times in 2023, just got his record up. Fought twice in 2024. And now, obviously, it's February 2025 and he's fighting again. So he is keeping, a nice schedule. And Anthony Hernandez is definitely, it sounds mad because he's 31, but he's definitely an up-and-comer. His record's 13-2. It's not like he's got 20, 25 fights or anything like that. He's had a couple of nice wins. His Edmund Shabazian win hurt me. Again, if you watch this podcast, you know how much I like Edmund Shabazian. He's got a win over him. He's got a win over Michel Pereira. A couple of, he's got some nice wins on there himself. So it is a very close fight. I'm going to go Brendan Allen I think Brendan Allen's got a bit more fight experience. He's been in there a bit longer. And you never know what a loss will do to a fighter. So I think he's going to be very hungry to get that one back. Moving into the fight before that is my fight card's not loading, but it's the Rob Font fight. So I really like Rob Font. He's a really good fighter. He's also been around a while. Matsumoto is a more up and comer. He's definitely a prospect. He's 16-0, I think, or 15-0. It's just loading now. Yeah, he's 16-0. Sorry. Rob Font's on a kind of little weird skid. Couple of losses and things like that. I'm going Matsumoto. I think he's going to stay unbeaten. I don't think Rob Font is the necessarily like the style, quote unquote, to beat Matsumoto. I think it might be a nice performance. I don't know about the finish or anything like that, but I think it definitely could be a really good performance. He had a nice win over Brad Katona, who I know he's a little bit like Marmite. He is quite an annoying person to talk, but he's a good level fighter. He's been on the Ultimate Fighter a couple of times. He won it the recent time. Got into the UFC again, and he's got a nice win over Brad Katona. So I like that as a win. Obviously he's come off the Contender Series himself. Had a couple of fights now in the UFC, dipped his toes. Now this is a big step up in kind of competition level, in my opinion. And I think he's going to get it done. Moving into the next fight on the card, we've got Gene Silva against Baghdasaryan. Now, I think with this, I'm not going to pretend to know loads about Baghdasaryan. I'm not going to, definitely not going to do that. I think it's going to come down to a little bit of just one being slightly more experienced than the other. Now, it's not like he's massively more experienced, but when you look at his competition, Charles Jourdain drew over at his last 2 fights. Obviously, Dean Silva, I'm talking about here. And he had 2 stoppages, which I like. He's been in the UFC now, actually in the UFC for 3 fights, and he's never seen the final bell. He came off the Contender Series, obviously, which I'm not counting, as in the UFC at all. So he's got 3 wins and he's never seen the final bell, which is very interesting as a fighter. Now, Baghdasaryan he's 8-2. So again, he's not massively below experience level. He's been finished inside the UFC by Kulabau, which is, good level of competition. Last fight, Tucker Lutz. I'm not going to pretend I even know who that is. So I just think level of competition is going to come into this a little bit more. Obviously, if you want to avoid that one, as I haven't give you loads to go off, that's more than fair enough. But if you're going with me, I'm going Dean Silva. Now, Mennefield against Julius Walker. Now, it's obviously a debut for Walker. He's coming from PFC, Peak Fighting 41. Don't know about you, but I haven't got a clue what that is, to tell you the truth. So it's not like he's coming from, a big organisation, a Bellator, a Cage Warriors, anything like that. So He's a little bit unknown, which is always a danger on predicting it because he could be a world beater. He's only 6-0, so he's only had 6 fights. There might be a load of fights we don't hear of on there. Menifield's coming off 2 losses, which I'm always very wary of betting on a fighter that's coming off a couple of losses because you just don't know whether are they on that skid, are they on the back end of the career. He's an older fighter. He's late 30s, I believe. He's 37. So that can also really, really play against him. How old actually is Julius Walker? So Julius Walker's 25. He's a young kid. I mean, the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking it's a bit of a horrible one to bet on because you don't know anything about Walker. He has never seen the final bell Walker. He is 6-0 with 6 finishes. He's got he's got 4 TKOs and 2 subs. So, he's definitely an interesting one. Now, he's actually touted to fight somebody else on his Sherdog record, which is never good. So I'm thinking now, is this a late replacement? He's scheduled to fight for Synergy FC. And now he's been drafted into the UFC. So to be fair, I weren't aware of that when looking at the card. But still, I'm going to go with Menifeld. I'm going to stick with me guts. Old vet against up-and-coming youngster. I'm going to go with Menifeld. Now, that obviously concludes the main card. On the prelims, you've got a couple of fighters that I like to watch personally. You've got Andre Philly. I used to like to watch Kuzabala, but he's gone a little bit, Kuzalaba, sorry, I always say that wrong. I got blasted in the comments last night for that. I used to like to watch him. He's a little bit on the slide. This Ibo Aslan has got a very nice record as well. He's 14-1. Inside of the UFC, he is 2-0. He also came off the Contender Series. He's got 2 finishes inside the UFC. I think Kutalaba is beatable, so I'm going to go with Ibo Aslan on that as a nice builder, to be honest. I haven't got the odds up or anything, so I don't know who's the favourite. It might be Aslan, to be honest with you, because Kutalaba is not in a good spot in the UFC. Ricky Simon against Basharat. I'm looking forward to that one. Really looking forward to it, to be honest. Ricky Simon, he feels like he's been around forever, and I don't know if that's just me. But I literally feel like I've been watching him fight forever. Now, let me just check his record, because he kind of been around for as long as I'm thinking, to be honest. He's 20-6, been in the UFC, yeah. He's been in the UFC since 2017. So, no, tell a lie, sorry, that was when he was on the Contender Series. He's been in the UFC since 2018, and his debut was against Merab Dvalishvili, and he beat him. Obviously, it weren't the same Merab. He's lost to Faber, he's lost to Robert Font. He's got wins over Jack Shaw, Assunção, Kelleher, Yadong Song. He's on a 3-fight skid, and he's fighting Basharat. Now, Basharat is obviously no slouch. I feel like Basharat is he's kind of waiting for the right opponent to really bring him out. He's 14-1 inside the UFC. He's 3-1. He lost most recently to Zahabi, unanimous decision. I'm really torn on this because I think Ricky Simon could be a problematic matchup for him, being a vet in the fighters he's fought and the fights he's fought, but he is on a 3-fight skid. I'm probably going to sway towards Basharat, which was kind of my initial thought. When I was looking into it a bit more, Simon was kind of putting up a fight in the head, but I think I'm swaying towards Basharat. So if I was a better man, I would have a nice 6-fold in there. I'd go Henry Cejudo. I would go Brendan Allen. I would go Matsumoto. I would go Gene Silva. I would probably avoid the Menifeld Walker fight because of the lack of knowledge on Walker and kind of where Menifield's at. I would go Ibo Aslan, and I would also go for Basharat in that fight, which I think would be a nice builder for you. So let me know if you agree with my picks, down in the comments. There's going to be more frequent videos coming. Apologies, like I said last week, for the hiatus. So there's going to be a video coming about 185, after Izzy's loss, after DDP's win, what the pitch is like there, what I'm thinking is going to happen, what I think the UFC is going to go. We've got some exciting stuff coming in regards to UFC London, some interviews with fighters, some fight week stuff potentially. And obviously this year, the intention is to build up this channel and get a nice backdrop as well. So appreciate anyone that watches, appreciate anyone that gets to the end, especially. Let me know if you agree with my comments down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe also, and I'll see you in the next one.